Hey guys, what's up? My name's Ines. I write kissing books, some of them sweet and some of them that bite back. I'm here today to talk to you about the paranormal romance beats, and there's 9 of them. And one of the reasons I was so excited to talk about this today is because I've been studying story for over 20 years. Don't let the fat cheeks fool you. I'm an old woman. Um, so I've been studying all these plots, studying them in television, studying them in film, studying them in books. And I started to see that there are plot points or beats that constantly repeat in genres and subgenres. And one of my favorite all-time subgenres to read is paranormal romance. And I noticed that there's 9 beats or plot points that keep repeating themselves over and over again in television, film, and books. And that's what I want to share with you guys today is the 9 plot points that I've discovered of paranormal romance beats. And we're going to start with the ordinary world. So, in the ordinary world, you find a hero or heroine that's introduced to the reader amidst a background of their everyday environment, their everyday society, and their everyday personal history. We need to get, as the reader, we need to get a bit of the hero or heroine's personality in order to be able to identify with them, but also to be able to see when their character arc happens at the end of the book. And we can kind of measure who this new person is from the person that they were when we first met them at the beginning of the story. And the way that I see that we do this most often is we either introduce the character, we introduce the setting, or we introduce the situation, or a combination thereof. Either the character has, in a paranormal romance, either a character has extraordinary powers that we get to see now in this first scene, or that we get to see very soon, or it's the setting that's interested. One of my favorite examples is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When you meet Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it's not in the very first scene. We're introduced to the Hellmouth first and the special powers that exist within the Hellmouth. Or you get introduced to a special situation because the character is dumped in the character might be an ordinary person and they're dumped into a special situation. Think Spider-Man, who gets powers after going on a field trip to the science museum. A spider bites him and he ends up in a very extraordinary situation where he gets all these powers. I'm going to be using Twilight because I think that's probably a universal text these days. So when we meet Bella Swan, she's an ordinary girl. And she's introduced into what seems like an ordinary world in an ordinary situation. But we very soon figure out that that's not the case. Her beau is very extraordinary, and he's going to introduce her to an extraordinary world. And then she's going to come into an extraordinary situation. So for your story, what does your ordinary world for your character look like? Do both your hero and your heroine, if you're telling a standard male-female romance, do both of them have extraordinary powers? Or does one of them have extraordinary powers? Maybe one of them is coming into their powers. You need to figure out what's going to be ordinary about this world, and that's how you're going to introduce it to the reader so that we come on board where your character is. Either the character is extraordinary, the setting is extraordinary, or the situation, or combination of all 3. But you need to make that decision in your first beat of paranormal romance. In the second beat of paranormal romance, this is where it starts to get good. This is the meet cute. And you're always going to see a meet cute in romance because romance is typically between at least 2 people. I haven't seen a romance of just one yet, but it's typically between at least 2 people. And at some point in the book, those 2 people have to meet sooner rather than later is best. Even if you're doing a second chance romance, at some point, the characters are going to meet on the page so that the reader sees their interaction, even if they've known each other before. So in romance, this is where the hero and the heroine meet for the first time on the page. Remember, these scenes, that I'm giving you right now, these beats, they don't have to be in order. So the meet cute might happen first, or it might happen a little bit later, but at some point it's going to happen. And remember, a meet cute should be memorable. It should be impactful. When you put it into a paranormal romance, I recommend that you highlight some or all of these things if it's possible. There should be an awareness moment in paranormal romance. And when I say awareness, I mean an awareness of the paranormal being. Maybe the guy is a shifter, or maybe the girl is a vampire. There should be an awareness of that paranormal being or an awareness of the world. For example, if it's a shifter, if it's a werewolf shifter and it's a guy, maybe when in that meet cute, he sensed that that's his mate. If you are at all a lover of the IAD world, the Immortals After Dark world, written by Cressley Cole, then you know that when a vampire senses his bride, his heart, he becomes blooded and his heart starts to beat again for the first time since he became a vampire. And it's a very impactful moment in that Immortal After Dark world. Somehow the beast inside, especially if it's a guy, if it's a male shifter, that beast shouts mine some kind of way. Either the beast shouts it, the man shouts it, or all senses go off. And there's an awareness that this is the person that I'm supposed to be with. And that's a really fun moment. In Twilight, Edward is first alerted to Bella's presence when he can't hear her thoughts. That's his awareness of her. That's his first awareness of her. There's a new girl, and he can hear everyone's thoughts except for hers. Then he gets close to her in science class, which is the slide you're seeing right now, and he scents her. And she smells so delectable that he wants to pounce on her right then and there, and she thinks she smells. It's a beautiful way to put the actual meet cute where they're face to face on the page. So when that happens and he gets that good whiff of her, all bets are off. And that's how the meet cute should be. They not only meet face to face, but there's some type of awareness for the paranormal being that they are. So think about how you're going to do that in your paranormal romance. Who is your shifter? Who is your paranormal being? They might be a shifter. They might be a vampire. They might be an elf. And what type of awareness are they going to have when they come face to face the person who's going to be their destined true love? In the third beat, and remember, these are in no particular order, there's a show of power. This could even be first. It's up to you. But the hero or the heroine, whoever has the power, will reveal their power in this particular beat. And it's depending upon their supernatural persuasion. If your supernatural being is an elf, they might show dominance over the elements. If your supernatural being is a dragon, maybe they breathe fire or they shift from human form into their dragon form. If your supernatural being is a vampire, they could show their power by being very old and looking very young. Maybe you see the heroine sees, and I'm sorry, I'm going to default to the men being the supernatural beings. Call me sexist. But if you have a vampire, maybe they're very old, and the heroine sees a photograph on the wall, and it looks like it's them, which happens in Twilight. It looks like it's them, but you're like, that can't be possible because you're still very young looking. This means you're 100 years old. So they could show their age, or they could know something about a historical event because they were there. Maybe they have to bite somebody to feed, and that might be on the page. The heroine doesn't always have to see it. But the reader needs to, at some point, get a show of power to know who this person is. You might even show a vampire's weakness because maybe the sun's about to come up and they have to go to bed. So it's up to you how you want to show that. It could be a strength, or the show of power could be a strength, or it could be a weakness. The same way with a werewolf. A werewolf could scent its mate. A werewolf could show his strength in a fight. Or a werewolf could show his weakness because maybe the full moon is rising and maybe he's going to lose control. And that loss of control is still a show of power. Same with a bear. A bear, again, could show his strength in a fight. They could also scent their mate. They could also growl, grr, mine. I love the mine line. That's my favorite thing about paranormal romance. She's mine. So they could have all of those, or maybe even a weakness could he get sleepy when it's wintertime and he has to hibernate. He has to go Betty Bye too. In Twilight, Edward shows his power when he saves Bella from the wintry, icy car crash that's about to happen. And he saves her one-handed by shoving away their friend's car with just the palm of his hand. However you choose to do it, whether your supernatural being is on the slide or not, think about what their power is and how can you show, most importantly, the reader their power. And then you can choose if the heroine also sees it at that moment too, or if they're going to see it later. But we as the reader need to see what their power is. So you make that decision. The next beat of the paranormal romance beats is the heroine. Sorry, I told you I'm sexist. The heroine has to be introduced to the extraordinary world and see that there's new rules in this new world. So, and this typically happens at some point you get to the end of Act 1. And by the end of the Act 1, it's maybe when the heroine knows something's up. Something's different about this guy. I can't put my finger on it just yet, but I know something's different about this guy. But by the second act, they typically have to cross the threshold into this new and extraordinary world. And in this new and extraordinary world, there's new rules that show this is not like the ordinary world. So behaviors are going to be different, which is why it's so important to set up that ordinary world so that we see with how things are supposed to be. So that when we cross that threshold and we're in this new special world, things are different. And we all, the heroine and the reader, need to learn the new rules, the new way of being, how to walk, how to talk, how to be. Maybe she has even acquired powers of her own at this point, and she needs to learn to use her powers to help keep her safe. To help keep her safe, also because she's going to get tested in this extraordinary world. There's going to be people who are going to be her allies, and there are going to be people who are going to be her enemies. And they need to figure that out. She and the hero need to figure out who they can trust and who they need to kick some butt right this second. In Twilight, Edward takes Bella to the forest, and that's where he reveals his true self. He shows he's been denying his powers before and trying to get her to forget what she saw when he saved her. But now that they're alone in the woods, he says, this is who I am. I'm a vampire. This is my sparkly skin, and these are my powers. I'm super fast, I'm old, and I'm cold. So just the same way that you figured out what's happening in your ordinary world and what you need to show of either the hero or heroine, the setting and the situation, you need to do that again for the extraordinary world. How are these different, and what do you need to show to get those points across? I think one of the reasons, at least for me, while readers like paranormal romance so much is because of the pack. The pack showcases a found family. Either the pack is your blood family, or the pack are people who are like you that you have had to find along the way, and you guys have become a family. It's one of the reasons why people like small town romance so much. It's because of that family, the family unit. So at some point in your story, the outsider needs to come home to Sunday dinner, theoretically or metaphorically speaking. In a shifty romance, one of the key components why readers flock to this, again, is because of the pack. So it's the found family of those individuals that have come together. Oftentimes, the heroine is the outsider, and she comes inside, and she eventually has to be welcomed into the pack after some trials and tribulations. And the reader gets to experience that along with the heroine, or maybe the hero, and they get to go through the motions of what it feels like to become a part of the pack. They start to have some shared secrets, they start to have some shared battle scars, and they start to have some shared care and emotion for each other. You're likely to find all kinds of characters in that found family inside that pack. There might be tricksters, there might be mentors, there might be shapeshifters. Take a look at Joseph Campbell's work, and you'll see all of the types of characters there. The translation of that is you might find inside the pack ex-lovers. You might find the black sheep brother, or the black sheep cousin, or you'll find the wise and old crone, or you'll find the alpha who has a fist of steel but a heart of gold. So you have these characters in there that you can start to pit against the hero and the heroine and forge more bonds with them. In Twilight, Bella gets invited to a family dinner. See, she got invited to a Sunday dinner at the Cullens. And these vampires are a true found family. They're not blood related, except for they all share Carlisle, who's the family patriarch. They all share his blood. You see Carlisle, who's the family patriarch who brought them all together. Esme is the matriarch. Alice is the soothsayer. Rosemary, somebody correct me. She's a bit of a shapeshifter because she's a mean girl, but then we'll see that her character starts to morph into something else as we learn her history, and she and Bella actually form a bond. And then you have the two brothers who they pal around and joke around with Edward, and they truly have his back, like true brothers would. So that's what happens there. Who would be the best fits in your found family? Is it a pack of brothers? Is it a sisterhood? Is it a mix therein that would best complement your hero and your heroine in the journey that they have to take together in this paranormal romance that you're writing? Then we come to the mirror moment. The mirror moment is oftentimes done in front of a reflection of the character, because this is when the character, be it the hero or the heroine, they get a glimpse of how they truly want to live their lives. Either they're thinking it, some catalyst happens that shows them that, no, that's not the road that I want to go down. This is the road that I want to go down. Or they're looking in the mirror at themselves and saying, what am I doing? I know exactly how I want to live my life, and this is how I'm going to do it. They realize that they can have to either go back to the ordinary world, which nobody ever truly does, or they realize they have to figure out how to exist in the extraordinary world, which is the choice everyone eventually comes to make. In Twilight, Bella and Edward both know that they want to spend their lives together. And once they're in the grove and they do kissy face, they decide that this is how it's going to be. They are going to now be each other's families. They're going to be each other's heart. Think about, and I find it really helpful when you think about the mirror moment when you're just plotting out your book. So if you book in the ordinary world and what that looks like, how your character looks at the start of the story, the mirror moment when they realize how they truly want their life to be, and then go to the end of how you're going to allow them to end up, that's basically the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. And if you have those three parts, I find it becomes really clear to write the story and make the character arc in the way that you want. I always make sure that I know what the mirror moment looks like before I sit down and I write a story. That's not entirely true. I always think I know what the mirror moment looks like, and my characters always tell me that I'm wrong. But you take a minute and try and figure out what your mirror moment should look like, and hopefully your characters don't tell you that you're wrong 30,000 words in. Okay, let's keep going. So, Power Unleashed. This is another show of power, but this time the beast comes out. So, now that the hero and the heroine know that they want to spend their lives together, they're going to have to fight for it. This is the moment when the beast comes out and the hero shows his or her full power. It can be the hero who has all along been the paranormal being, or it can be the heroine who finally comes into her own power, or it can be both of them. You choose how you want to set that up. But at this moment, that beast comes out and is ready to wreak serious havoc in order to protect what they believe is theirs. And that is the love that they have just found. They're going to fight for it and throw down for it. The bear will come out. The wolf will bare his fangs. The vampire will try to rip somebody's throat out. The elf will do his magic thing. The dragon will breathe fire. Whatever they need to do, they're not going home without their chosen mate. So think about how you're going to do this. In Twilight, for Edward, he has to defeat the villain who is after Bella, but Bella is ready to die for them. So see, she's ready to give up her life for him, and he's ready to do the same. I really think this moment, this power being unleashed is really all about love being unleashed. It's like, here, I'm giving you my heart. Even if I have to die, I'm giving it to you to show you how much I love you. I know, I'm a wuss. Here comes the next one. The claiming beat that always happens in paranormal romance. Again, remember, these are not necessarily in order. At this point, a kiss is not usually enough when they're claiming. A kiss would be enough in a standard romance to say, you're mine, you're going to be with me forever. But these are paranormal beings, so a little more typically happens because the beast is coming out, right? So the claiming scene is to put everyone on notice that this person belongs to me. A vampire or wolf will bite. A bear or a wolf will maybe use his fangs to mark her body. Maybe there's a kiss, but there might be more. Or maybe there's even a vow where they've proclaimed forever and ever that they are gonna be together. But usually there's some type of a mark left on her body if it's a paranormal romance. So think about who your paranormal being is and how they lay claim. What does a wedding ring? How do they put a ring on it in your particular world? And this is your claiming scene. In Twilight, there is no claiming in the first book, but we all know later. Oh, actually, no, I'm wrong. He does bite her in the first book. He bites her to take out the venom that James had tried to infuse in her. So he does put a mark on her, but it's not meant to be the claiming mark at that point. Later, there's a true claiming mark in this series of books. I digress. How are you going to claim your hero or heroine at this moment in your paranormal romance? Then we just have one more scene. If this isn't a series, then you want to put your happily ever after here. With the happily ever after, we're going to see the characters in their new life, but that's not necessarily enough. One or both of them are going to change, either now or eventually. If you had a vampire, well, if he just made it a human, humans don't live forever. So at some point, he's probably going to have to change her. It either happens on the page or we give the idea that it's going to happen eventually. Same with werewolves. Does he change her into a werewolf? Is that even necessary? Same with an elf. Does he give her some type of fairy elixir and now she's an elf as well? Same with the dragon. How is he going to keep her forever? So when we're doing a paranormal romance, happily ever after is a little bit different because it really lasts ever after. And you have to leave the readers with the notion that this isn't going to be just an 80-year romance. It's going to last for a very long time because our paranormal being lives for a very long time and he's going to need her with him or she's going to need him with her. So you have to either explicitly say or give a hint as to how that ever after is going to last for a very long time. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 9 beats that I see constantly recurring in a paranormal romance. I hope this is helpful, and I can't wait to see your paranormal romance stories out on the virtual and the real shelves. Please don't be a stranger. I'm on YouTube. You can find me at Ines Johnson, where I have tons of free content. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the Writing Gals conference. Bye.